The X-Zone radio and TV show is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone radio and TV show or in any manner endorsed by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, Talkstar Radio Network, its affiliated stations, or employees.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network, coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and across Canada, the United States, Central America, the Caribbean, South America, the Pacific Rim, Asia, Africa, Europe. The X-Zone is growing, thanks to you, the growing members of the X-Zone Nation. If you'd like to give us a call, toll-free worldwide, 1-800-610-7035. That's 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. My guest this hour is a good friend of the X-Zone Nation. His name is Mike M. Joseph. He was born in 1944 to a Jewish Orthodox family in British Aden in Yemen. In 1949, his family migrated to Israel. In late 1965, he moved to New York, where, a few years later, he began working with a community practicing both Old and New Testaments teaching of the Bible. Now, from 1970 to 1975, he served on the faculty of a religious college in Pasadena, California, teaching modern and biblical Hebrew while pursuing his Bachelor of Arts degree in liberal arts. In 1975, Mr. Mike Joseph began his new career as a Bible lecturer. Mike has published dozens of articles and books on human relationships and Middle East issues. He presently lectures and also teaches Bible law from the Old and New Testaments on the internet website, www.teachingthelaw.org. That's www.teachingthelaw.org. And you can find out more about Mike and purchase his books at www.mikemjoseph.com. The last time Mike Joseph was on the show with us, we were talking about his book, Sorry, There Is No Afterlife. None Goes to Heaven or Hell. And tonight we're going to be talking about Mike's book on the Middle East. And Mike, welcome back to the X-Zone. Great having you with us.
Thank you, Rob, and thanks for having me.
Now, Mike, tell us a little bit about the book that we're going to be discussing tonight, The Middle East and the Middle East conflict.
It's basically a book that describes a 4,000-year history of all the descendants of Abraham, not only the ones that generally people think of, the people of Israel, but he had the son Ishmael, and he had many people that came out of Israel, of Ishmael, that is, many nations. He had also a grandson, Esau, that was the twin brother of Jacob, and he had his many nations, and he also, when his wife Sarah died, he married another woman, and as we read also in the account, and later on by Josephus, he had one wife and then many concubines, and he had many children that became colonizers. So he had many, many people that came out of him, many nations, and they are spread in essence worldwide. So it's a long story, and that book basically is trying to capture history, their whereabouts, and their links with each other, be it good or bad. It's a 4,000-year history, basically, of the descendants of Abraham.
Exonation, in this hour, we're going to be speaking to Mike Joseph about his book, Middle East, Blueprint for the Final Solution, The Coming Fall and Rise of Western Democracy. If you'd like to give us a call, 1-800-610-7035. You can always send an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, and on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. Mike Joseph is our special guest, and find out more about Mike or to order his books, www.mikemjoseph.com. And you can also take his Internet Bible course at www.teachingthelaw.org. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as the X Zone continues from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network and X Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
Midnight at the oasis, send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces, traces of romance in our hands. Heaven's holding a half moon, shining just for us. Let's slip off to a sand dune real soon. Kick up a little dust. Come on, cactus is our friend.
Welcome back, everyone. Mike Joseph is our special guest, and we're going to be talking about Mike's book, Middle East, Blueprint for a Final Solution. The Middle East conflict originated literally in the womb of a beautiful woman, Rebecca, Isaac's wife. Her struggling twins from their mother's womb have often engaged in a love-hate embrace, scorching their lands with periodic eruptions of bloody conflicts. Their descendants, though gradually lost their identity, have spread their struggle for global inheritance into Europe, the Americas, and elsewhere. The March of Islam of Muhammad, the man of the sword, the present Jew-Arab conflict, the Persian Gulf menace, fanatic Islamic world terrorism, and their main target, the West, are a direct result of the twins' struggle, which began while in their mother's womb. Human history and its future can't be fully comprehended without correct understanding of the roots and turbulent history of the struggling twins. And joining us this hour to help us better understand the Middle East is Mike Joseph. Now, Mike, according to most Bible scholars and students, Ishmael, the firstborn of the son of Abraham from his Egyptian wife Hagar, is the main avowed enemy of Israel. Now, is this biblically correct?
No, definitely it's not. The reality is that when people read certain things, in a superficial way, they really miss the whole picture. Biblically speaking, if one just goes through the account casually, they can find very quickly that Ishmael had very little to do in relationship and conflicts and whatever, with the people of Israel. He's hardly even mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But another personage is mentioned, and he's the one that the Bible zeroes in from that period of time to this very day. And it's not Ishmael. Ishmael only at the end time became more involved with the rise of Islam, and specifically in the last century or so. But otherwise, it's not Ishmael. He's not the main character.
Well, who is it?
The main character actually is, as you mentioned, earlier in some comments about where the struggle began in the womb of a beautiful woman, Rebecca, the wife of Isaac. They had twins, actually. One is called Jacob, and one was called Esau. Esau was born the first, that is, in terms of a few minutes before.
Mm-hmm.
And later on, his name became known Edom because of a certain episode that happened there in his life with Jacob, who fed him red lentil, and therefore he became known as Edom. Edom is the one that supposedly, since he was the firstborn, that should have inherited the birthright. Well, God already decided before they were born that Jacob would inherit the birthright, and Edom just didn't like it a bit. And so he vowed that he's going to kill his brother. And throughout the Bible, we have those statements and mentions that God is accusing Esau of defying his will, of wanting the birthright by the edge of the sword, of wanting to kill his brother and his descendants, and he still does it to this very day, even though his descendants lost their identity, the desire is still there. And so he's really the main character that is behind the whole Middle East issue. Well, just joined in at the end time.
It sounds a little bit like the story of Cain and Abel.
Yes. As a matter of fact, there were many stories of twins in the Bible that are fighting for the birthright, and that's a very common story throughout the family of men.
Is it actuality, or are these metaphors, the story of the twins representing good and evil?
It's not a metaphor, it's a reality.
Really?
And an unfortunate reality that brings an awful lot of bloodshed where it shouldn't be. There should be lovers instead of haters.
Yeah.
That's what they choose to be.
Now, what is the link between Edom and the prophet of Islam, Muhammad?
The link is very, very physical for the simple reason Ishmael kept in good communication, as we read in the Bible here and there, with the descendants of Abraham from Isaac and then Jacob. And so at a certain point, when Ishmael realized that his father is not too happy and his mother with the choice that he made in choosing Canaanite women, he went to his uncle, basically his uncle Ishmael, and married his daughter. And so a part of the descendants of Esau actually linked to Ishmael, and they settled in areas where later on Muhammad was born. And so you have a mixture there of ancestry of Muhammad coming also from Ishmael as well as from Edom. And that's what the link between them. And Edom was called the man of the sword, and so was the prophet of Islam.
Tell me, Mike, do the Prophet Muhammad and the Quran make any claims over Jerusalem and the land many call Palestine?
Definitely do not. As a matter of fact, Muhammad, in his early stage, he wanted very badly for the Jews to understand where he's coming from his point of view, and to follow him. And he spoke very highly of them and of the promises that God gave to Isaac and to Israel, and he made it very plain that the land belongs not to Ishmael, he made it very plain in those words, but belongs to the children of Isaac. And as of Jerusalem, originally he, trying to gain the Jews on his side, he told everybody they should pray toward Jerusalem, and then when the Jews did not go along with him, he basically changed that and said, well, forget about Jerusalem. And there is never, ever any mention of Jerusalem in the Quran. So he never considered that to be a holy place to begin with. He said it belongs to Isaac. We got plenty of our own land. We don't need that land. So he never made that claim.
Well,
that's a later on concoction, basically.
Well, how did Jerusalem come to be considered the third holiest site to Islam then?
It came by sort of indirect way. After the death of Muhammad, there was a struggle there again, for power. He didn't have a son; he had a daughter. She married Ali, and there was a struggle there between two parties that basically created what is called today. And from that time, the Shiite Muslims and the Sunni Muslims. Iranians are Shiites, and the Sunni are all the rest. And at a certain point, the people that became the Sunni, they prevailed. They were from Baghdad. The Caliphate of Baghdad was a dominant one. And about 50 years later, somebody in the area of Mecca decided to rebel against them. And he basically rebelled against the Caliph of Baghdad and took over Mecca and prevented all pilgrims from coming to Mecca. Now, the Caliph of Baghdad, who had the jurisdiction over Jerusalem, said, well, we've got to look for an alternative, and so he chose Jerusalem. But how is he going to sell it to his people? Well, he came up with this concoction that Muhammad actually, using a verse from the Quran that had nothing to do with it, but he used it, and he said that Muhammad actually came to Jerusalem, that is, on the day that he ascended, on the night that he ascended to heaven, and he ascended from Al-Aqsa. At the time they called it Al-Aqsa. Later on somebody changed it to Dome of the Rock. From there he ascended up to heaven. Well, that makes Jerusalem a holy city. And if it's a holy city, well, the land is also a part of it. And that's how Jerusalem and the land became known as holy Arab places and the third holiest site of Islam. Muhammad never said that, never thought that, never believed it.
So it was a statement of convenience.
It was very much, which is pretty common for world leaders. They want to come up with something, they'll invent something else, and the masses, what do they know? Propaganda.
Isn't that the truth? Now, yes. Mike, what is the biblical historic link between Edom, twin brother of Jacob or Israel, and the Phoenician ancestors of the Spanish people?
Edom lived originally in Mount Esau, which was right under the Dead Sea, and then gradually, because the land became parched, and we read in the Bible that God was going to curse actually that land, he was always, and he said he was perpetually angry with Esau for trying to, in essence, wrestle the birthright from Jacob in so many ways. And so he, in essence, drove them into many areas, and they went into many, many areas, and there is an awful lot of information in the book about it. And actually, Isaac Newton wrote extensively about it, and I have all of his information tracing the identity of Edom to the Phoenician people, to the Spanish people, and to this very day. Basically, they don't realize it. As I said, they lost their identity, but they're still struggling. When you have the British Armada, and the Spanish Armada and the British in a conflict, and Spain, Britain conflict, and then the United States, the South and North conflict, it's all a part of the same story. It's a struggle of the twins for the global mastery of their inheritance. So this is what the link is.
Even though the twins died so many years ago, thousands of years ago, the battle still goes on. Why?
The battle goes on because there is a spirit being behind it, ultimately speaking.
And who is
even if they lose theirs, the inheritance became greater and greater, and the Bible also talks about it, that mostly at the end time, the last few centuries, the greatest portion of the inheritance that God meant for Jacob to have will be there, and also for Esau. But they're still fighting for the supremacy over the entirety of the birthright, regardless of the fact that they don't know their identity.
So tell me, Mike, why do you think God just doesn't intervene and say, you know what, gang, you're not doing it right, I'm taking over?
Well, he does intervene when it's convenient, that is, when it is according to his plan, but he wants the whole scenario to be played out. And at the end time, he made it very plain, and he had it recorded. And my book, basically will have all those words and statements and prophecies that have been recorded to make us understand that at the end of the story, God will sort out all things, but he wants it basically to go in this manner. And what's really behind it is, if the people of Israel would follow their God, his teachings, his path, he would take care of all things. But if they don't, they're going to have to do it the hard way. And the hard way is continue the struggle with those who are trying to basically subjugate them and take away from them what God had promised them.
Mike, you and I have to take a commercial break with the news. Please stand by. Exo Nation, Mike M. Joseph is our special guest. We're talking about Mike's book this hour, Middle East, Blueprint for the Final Solution. www.mikemjoseph.com is where you can find out about Mike, order his books, and if you'd like to take his online Bible course, that website is www.teachingthelaw.org. That's www.teachingthelaw.org. And Mike Joseph and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada on the Talkstar Radio Network and X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
Send your camel to bed. Shadows painting our faces, traces of romance. All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Mike Joseph is our special guest, X-Zone Nation. www.mikemjoseph.com. We're talking about Mike's book, Middle East Blueprint for the Final Solution. And Mike, there's something you wanted to add about the Phoenicians being related to the Spanish, right?
Yes, it is a very important clue there because the people of Edom, when they were dispersed throughout the Middle East, a part of them being men of the sword and also conquerors in nature, they moved up to territory which is present-day Lebanon, and they settled in an area where there used to be Canaanites that lived in the area, and they basically dominated the area. And the word phonic, most people do not realize that, means red in their own language, from Edom. Edom means red, and phonic means red, and the Phoenicians were the red people. So the Bible does not necessarily name them as Edom at that time because it was all understood by everybody that they were the people of Edom that lived in that area. And they became known as the navigators of the ancient world. Sort of the big empire at the time, like America presently, and British Empire before that. Well, they used to travel, and we have records. They traveled with the seamen of King Solomon, and they would travel and circumnavigate the world for 3 years and come back and bring gold and peacocks and birds of paradise. They basically would land anywhere all around the earth, including North America, South America, and faraway countries of India and Asia and other places. And when later on they were displaced from that by Alexander the Great, since they had established colonies throughout Europe and other places, including the North and South America, and that's, by the way, how many of the Indians in North and South America got some information that are of a biblical nature. And the Mayan prophecies is a part of the story. That's where they got it from. You can find, to this very day, there are rocks with inscriptions on them in both Phoenician and Hebrew because of the sailors of both navies that were there. So they, from there, moved to basically through Greece and Italy into southern France, and then finally to Spain and Portugal, and from there, it's an old story. They moved to the New World, and that's basically the link between the Phoenicians and the Spanish people, the Latin people, and as I said, Isaac Newton has a lot to say about that, and all these details are in the book.
Mike, why can't we just all get along? Why can't we just let bygones be bygones and just go on with our lives?
Well, the reality is that when there is money involved, when there is power involved, when there is prestige involved, these things are sort of like alcohol. People drink them and they get drunk and they don't think sanely anymore.
But it's the
we can do it otherwise.
But it's the people who are suffering, not the people in power. The people, the everyday people, the citizens of these countries and these tribes and these religious beliefs that are suffering.
They do. They do. The reality is that the leaders, whenever they want to get to whatever agenda they have, they whip up, the emotions of the people and make them, think, well, this is nationalism, defending your country, the love of father country, the fatherland, the motherland, and all that, as Hitler did, and all others are doing, as Ahmadinejad is doing in Iran. In essence, by following their leaders, they become a party to it, accomplices to it, and they end up paying the penalty, just like the German people had to pay the penalty for following Hitler.
By association.
By association, yes. That's reality. It's reality in Canada, It's reality in America, the United States, and other places.
Mike, what is the biblical historic link between the descendants of the northern kingdom of Israel, the so-called lost 10 tribes, and the Anglo-Saxons, most people of the northwest Europe, and many white Muslims of the Stan countries as Afghanistan, Pakistan, etc.?
When Isaac, the patriarch, the son of Abraham, when he blessed his two sons, Esau and Jacob, he basically told them that their fate for the future until the end time will be linked. They're going to be side by side, and they're going to have that struggle that will go on. And at times, as it is known in Jewish writings, in the Talmud and other writings, these two are struggling, and sometimes one will be up and the other person is down. And so the descendants of Israel, the 10 lost tribes of the northern kingdom, were taken into captivity by the king of Assyria into the areas of the Persian and the Medes and northern part of Assyria. And later on, they moved into the Caucasus Mountains. From that, we get, this concept of the Caucasian race.
Mm-hmm.
And, basically the white race. From there, they gradually, and we have a lot of history, and my book has plenty of it, they moved gradually through the Crimean, Russia, and then after the border of the Roman Empire, when the Roman Empire finally collapsed, they were able to move into Europe and to the British Isles. But some of them actually moved into the British Isles, and we have that history from the Irish Chronicles, from many other sources, had colonies already in the British Isles in the days of King Solomon. And then in successive migrations, more and more came to that place. So they basically traveled, the majority of them west, but a part of them went actually east. And that's where they end up in countries like Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, many of those places. And strangely enough, and there is plenty of information about it, as a matter of fact, on the BBC, they had some programs about it, where they went to those places and found people that claimed to be children of Israel who are still known by their tribal name of the sons of Israel, like, Ephraim, Manasseh, Zebulun, Dan, and Asher, and so forth. So it's not really a totally hidden history. There are actually literally many, many millions of people worldwide that have this information. But it's not a common knowledge, unfortunately, and throughout history, this kind of knowledge will sort of like the waves of the sea. It goes up and then it goes down. People are fully aware of it, and then they lose it as time goes by, and that's basically what we're going through now, sort of up and down. But they're basically everywhere. So in other words, when you look about to Canada or the United States, or if you look to Northwest Europe, minus Germany, who were the descendants of the Assyrians that took Israel into captivity, and Austria, which is very interesting. Austria is basically from the grandson of Abraham, the Ashurim. They ended up there. And they are in Italy, they are in Greece. All the royal houses in the European continent are all linked. They're all of one family. They all came from one family, the family of the great Odin, who was from the tribe of Judah. As he traveled, throughout all of Europe, Russia, wherever he went, he basically left some of his sons there, and they became the royalty of Europe. They're all linked together. And we have a prince called Prince Michael of Albany, who lives in Scotland, who wrote very interesting books, and his information will be in my book too. And he's the president of all the princes of Europe, and he also brings this information and details, and the link of the royal houses of the entirety of Europe to the royal house of King David. So there's plenty of information out there for those who search for it.
Exonation, the book that Mike keeps referring to is his book entitled Middle East, Blueprint for the Final Solutions. And if you'd like to order it, please go to www.mikemjoseph.com. Now, if you'd like to take Mike's Internet Bible class or course, www.teachingthelaw.org. That's www.teachingthelaw.org. Mike, what's the real theological cause behind the religious and cultural clash between East and West since the rise of Islam?
It's basically, the part of the title of the book, which I know some people don't like, especially the people of the Jewish community, because they think about final solution in terms of what Hitler had done. Well, this has nothing to do with it in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
It talks about the fact that these are people that should have lived in peace together, but they chose not to. They chose to, instead of being carnal, so to speak, and seek their own selfish agenda, and therefore, naturally, they were not willing to accept the will of their Creator, of their God, of the Father of their, that is the God of their father Abraham. And so they created different religions, which obviously would create a clash between them, because they were both struggling. In other words, the struggle for the birthright is really what's behind Islam, and behind this clash between East and West. It's behind, in other words, it's a clash between the children of Abraham from Isaac and Jacob, and between the children of Abraham from Ishmael and then Esau, the son of Isaac. And they were not willing as time went by, though they did in the beginning. Ishmael didn't have any problem with the God of Israel, that is the one that became known as the God of Israel, the God of Abraham at the time. He didn't have a problem. As a matter of fact, Muhammad, he said that he believes in the Torah that was given to Moses. He believes in the songs that were given to David. He believes in the gospel that was given to Jesus Christ. He believes in Christ and the prophets and all that, which it makes one think, well, why don't, since their own prophet has great respect for all this, why don't they all have the same, and therefore they should have been living together?
Exactly.
Well, the problem is the struggle that is not even, they don't even think in those terms, but that struggle goes on, is what motivating them to overlook this reality and to rather live at war than peace. It happens within families. The father dies, the brothers and sisters are fighting over the inheritance. And they forget that they are one family. They could have lived in peace together. And so this clash is based on that. It's basically the struggle for the birthright and the scepter, which included the Messiah, which included all the inheritance to come. And the final solution is that when God says, okay, the game is over, now we're going to do it my way. And we're going to have one God, one religion, no more conflicts, and that would be, in essence, the final solution. And when it comes to pass, the hell that we have on earth will become paradise. And that's what the first book, was talking about, that we talked about the afterlife.
Yes.
So this clash will continue until the end of time, because God had given it a certain amount of time. And it's up to us. We can do it faster, or we can wait until, sort of Big Brother rises up and settles the issues. It's in our hands.
So are we talking here about the Battle of Armageddon?
The Battle of Armageddon, unfortunately, the people that refer to it are not paying attention to what they're reading, and that's pretty common, to human beings. Armageddon means Har Megiddo, the Mount of Megiddo. It's not even a mountain, it's a mount. It is a battle that will take place not before the coming of the Messiah, but it will happen after Israel is brought back to their land. And ironically, it's a war that will never hear one single shot. God is going to bring these people, he made it very plain through the prophet Ezekiel, and he's going to, in essence, show the rest of the world that still haven't learned that he's the boss, by bringing them to the border of his land. And while they're there, since their aim is to destroy the land of Israel, he's basically going to put all of them to sleep. And then he's going to make all of Israel bury all the dead. And it's going to take them 7 months to do it. And they will use all their armor and whatever they bring with them to burn fires, for a barbecue or whatever it may be for 7 long years. So it's not a dreadful battle to worry about, because it's a battle where nothing's going to happen. There's so much to do about nothing. And yet people have used it as symbolic of the greatest war ever. There isn't going to be any war.
But you're going to have
anyway.
You're going to have all these people who are going to be put to sleep by God. Is he going to kill them all?
The description there that basically he's going to send fire, brimstone, and all kind of things like that in great earthquake, and you can put it in sweet words, and he's going to eliminate them, basically.
Yeah.
But it's a whole army that would not even get the chance to fight. And in doing so, basically the rest of the nations that still haven't learned, who's in charge, they will have to realize you better submit to the God of heaven and earth, and things will be well. And as for those that would die in the battle of Armageddon, in the second resurrection, all of them will be brought back to life, and now God will tell them, well, how would you like to do it this time? The good way or the bad way? The hard way or the easy way? Well, obviously they would choose the easy way at that time. So it's not a horrible story, ultimately speaking. That's a part of the final solution. All things will turn out good.
Mike, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour, and we're going to also be doing our show's wrap-up on the other side of this break. Mike Joseph is our guest. www.mikemjoseph.com. That's www.mikemjoseph.com. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we do our final wrap-up for tonight's show here in the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Don't go away.
Become one. I see you through the smoky air. Can't you feel the weight of my stare? You're so close, but still a world of...
On my way to better things, I found myself some wings. Distant roads are calling me. Dad, 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 dad. No time for a summer friend. No time for the love you send. Seasons change and so did I. You need not wonder why. You need not wonder why. There's no time left for you. No time left for you.
And welcome back, X-Zone Nation. I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all our guests tonight. Elizabeth Joyce in hour number 1. Hour number 2, Peter Metzner and I talked about dreams. Hour number 3, Matt Stein and I talked about when technology fails. And in this final hour, my good friend Mike Joseph and I are discussing Mike's book, Middle East Blueprint for the Final Solution. His website, www.mikemjoseph.com. And if you'd like to take Mike's internet course on Bible law from the Old and the New Testament, visit www.teachingthelaw.org. That's www.teachingthelaw.org. Mike, how did we get from one religion to all the different religions that we now have around the world?
Well, the reality is just like the experts. They say, the experts know this and know that and think about this and that, and yet they disagree. Well, how can they be all experts and they all disagree? That's what happens in the field of religion. When people into their own, comprehension of the matter, they begin to alter things, and pretty soon you end up being diversified. And each one thinks, well, I've got the right one, and it never dawns on them. How can there be so many religions, and they don't agree on the same premise and basic teachings and all that, and yet all supposedly be the religions of God? Well, one of them has got to be right, all the rest cannot be, unless they all fully agree. But it's a human proclivity. French would say "vive la différence." That means they like to have each one his own concept, idea, whatever. So you have conservative, ultra-conservative, and liberal, and to the right and the left and between. As long as they're human beings, will continue to have whatever different.
Tell me, Mike, we're running out of time very fast. Are we past the point of redemption?
No, we never are. As a matter of fact, I was just reading a portion today in the book of Ezekiel where God is pleading to the last moment. You can still change things. All you have to do, just turn around. People call it repentance. Just turn around, behave yourself, and everything's going to be well. I really don't want to bring all this mess on you. So there is never a point of no return.
Mike, as always, great talking to you, my friend. I wish you well, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet here in the X-Zone.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Take care, Mike. Mike Joseph, www.mikemjoseph.com. We've been talking about Mike's book, Middle East Blueprint for the Final Solution. And once again, if you'd like to take Mike's Bible law from the Old and New Testament internet course, it's at www.teachingthelaw.org. Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. To all our affiliates around the world, thank you guys for carrying us. To all our listeners around the world, thank you for allowing us to be part of your day or night, no matter where you are in this great big world of ours. As I always say, if you have a child at home, give them a hug, give them a kiss. Let them know they are loved, because the children of today are the leaders of tomorrow. And take care of each other. And always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Closing time. One last call for alcohol. So